Hi, I'm Caroline, Canine Behaviourist at Good Doggy. One of the number one pieces of advice that we've been taught for years and years and years is that when our dogs stop doing something that we want them to do, that we should yell at them, tell them off, give them a talon, and that will help as a part of their behaviour training. But I have 4 good reasons why that is not a good idea. So the first thing is that it triggers the dog's body's stress response. So as soon as they get yelled at, that triggers a surge of cortisol in their body. And we all know what that feels like. If you've ever been told off by your boss, or even if you've just got an email that says, please see me in my office, or maybe you've had a complaint at work or something like that, or the school's just rang, you get that real horrible sinking feeling. Anxiety suddenly just overtakes you. That's what that feels like, that kind of icky, horrible, sicky stress feeling. So that's what happens to your dog when they get yelled at. And we know that behaviour is emotion driven. So this is a bad emotion to add when your dog is already doing something that you don't want them to do. So imagine your dog is afraid of something in the park, maybe another dog, and they're barking at them. What we don't want to do is add more stress response into that situation, because clearly that's not going to help. When we get that complaint at work, we have strategies that we force ourselves to do. We take a deep breath, we count to 10, we go for a short walk. So it stops us from reacting in that moment. So as soon as you realize that something has gone wrong, we strategize, we take this little bit of time, we allow ourselves to calm down, to let that cortisol subside. And then when we respond to the thing that's happened, we respond in a much better way. But dogs don't know how to do this. So when they're already stressed, then we're adding much, much more stress to a situation. And this can make them more defensive. It can make the problem worse. You might also be used to seeing, if you've shouted at your dog for something, that kind of guilty look that you've seen probably a few times. And lots of people will tell me that they see this guilty look in their dog, and that's how they know that their dog knew they'd done something wrong. But actually that guilty look comes from this stress response. When things around them are getting stressed, that impacts on the way they feel, and they try to avoid it. So what you're seeing is avoidance behaviors. You're seeing kind of apologetic behaviors. Things have gone wrong. They're trying to de-escalate the situations around them. So this isn't actually an acknowledgement of guilt. This is an acknowledgement that the situation has got out of control around them. And actually what they're trying to do is to de-escalate it a little bit. And they're showing these avoidance behaviors to do that. So we can see that adding anxiety to an already stressful situation can make things worse. Imagine that your dog's maybe had an accident in the house. They've had a pee while you've been out, and you come in and shout at them. That's going to add that level of cortisol. And actually anxiety forces dogs to pee, or it can do. It really affects their bladder and their bowel. So there's a few good reasons there why we do not want to trigger that surge of cortisol and that sudden stress response when possibly the situation is already too stressful. The second reason is that it actually breaks a dog's resilience. So resilience is our ability to bounce back when things have gone wrong. Some people are more resilient than others, and dogs are just the same. So sometimes a dog can have a bad experience in the park, they just shrug it off and they just go home and go, that's fine. Tomorrow's another day. That's a very resilient dog. A dog might get a turn off in the park and might take that to heart and develop a reactive behaviour problem towards other dogs, an anxiety problem. And that dog is not resilient in comparison to the first one. So when we yell at our dogs, it actually starts to break away at that resilience. It sucks away at that confidence. It can then create a situation where a dog now becomes vulnerable when they're out to new experiences. So if a car suddenly makes a loud noise next to a dog that's lost some resilience, they will react to that much differently to a dog that has lots of resilience that will just shrug that off. So we don't want to wear away that resilience. That resilience is really important. That's like a barrier that deflects behavior problems and anxiety. So we need to build that up, and we don't want to risk knocking that down at all, because it's going to really affect their confidence. Something else that can happen as a result of losing that confidence and losing that resilience is they lose attachment to their owner and their family. And this is directly linked to separation anxiety. So once this process has been started, if a dog gets yelled at enough times, then actually this could be a direct link towards separation anxiety, either becoming a problem for the first time or making it much, much worse if you already have that problem. So we don't want to knock that confidence, and we definitely don't want to knock that resilience. Thirdly, actually barking in some cases can be quite rewarding. When a dog is barking for territorial reasons, they are basically trying to summon their pack. So the first dog will notice that there's a problem, they'll start to bark, and what they're trying to do is get a message to everybody that's on their side and on their team to come. So you can see here in this video, as soon as one starts barking, everybody joins in and they all follow. That little one at the end took his time, but they got there. And that's basically what your dog is trying to do. He is barking to get you to come and support him. And also it's really good for him when he wants to defend his territory if he's got all of you there with him. If something has come up to your boundary line, he doesn't want to be stood there by himself trying to tell them, you know, this is my house, stay away. He'll feel much more confident when he's got everybody standing beside him. 5 or 6 people, if possible, standing at your boundary line, shouting at a dog and an owner is going to actually present a much, much stronger front. And is going to be much more intimidating to the other dog that has come up against your boundary. Of course, we know that people don't really behave like that. That dog is not trying to break into our den. It's not trying to infiltrate our pack, but that's not how the dogs are thinking. So barking can be really, really reinforcing. When they bark and call their pack and we all respond to it, then that's really good for them. So you could actually end up rewarding the barking, supporting it, and making it worse. And if you still need one more reason to not yell at your dog, this is the big one. You could actually scare him. So sometimes yelling at a dog that's doing something that you don't want them to do can be effective in that moment. It can feel like you've actually achieved something, you've got them to stop doing what they're doing. But the reality is that the only reason that you were able to stop them from doing what they were doing by shouting at them is because your dog wanted to avoid being shouted at by you. And the only reason a dog wants to avoid that is because they find it scary or it causes pain. Really, fear and pain are the two things that will stop a dog from doing something in the future. So if you're trying to use an action to stop a behavior in your dog, then it has to be either pain-inducing or scary. Otherwise, it won't be effective. And nobody wants to be like that with their dog. Nobody got a dog wanting to behave like that. So we don't want to scare our dogs. Nobody ever got better at a performance of something by being yelled at. Nobody got better at their job when they got yelled at. Nobody gets faster when they're yelled at. It really is not a great way to try and train a dog. But often we don't really think about it like that. We just respond. Something's happened. We make an angry response and it stops and we feel like it's worked. But we don't want to scare the dog. There's much, much better ways of solving problems that don't even require that kind of thing. So hopefully that's helped. Check out videos that I've made on things like clicker training, because that's sort of the opposite. That's about how you mold and reward and reinforce the behavior that you want as opposed to the behavior that you don't want. Also check out videos on threshold, because very often if a dog's doing something bad enough that you want to shout at them, it's probably because they've gone over the threshold. So check those out and I'll see you soon. Take care for now. Bye bye.